This week on the Orange Box Podcast, we talk about new information on Project Helix, Game Pass officially getting a price drop, the Steam controller being revealed and dropped imminently, and more. All of this tonight, but first, on to the new Beautiful Bean intro. Welcome to the place where PC and console gaming talk combine. This is the Orange Box Podcast, episode 133. I am your host, the man whose life story is being adapted into an animated movie with no plot, Nathan, also known as the Frozen Gamer 87. And joining me, as always, the man whose life story is being adapted into a $100 million live-action movie, Justin, better known as I Am Zaracon. How you doing today? How's your week been?
It's been pretty much uneventful. I finally got around to finishing the one video I wanted to work on, so I'm happy that that was done. And I also finally got around to trying this, or rather, trying something else out. I've been meaning to, for probably about the past month, try another Linux distro, and so I just recently started trying it this past weekend, and at first it seemed like things were going pretty smoothly with like the installation stuff until I realized there's no graphical sort of package manager, so you have to essentially use the terminal for installing stuff. Unless, I mean, you can still go ahead and try to download a graphical package manager, but there's not one available by default. So it's been interesting trying to like sort of get back into doing more terminal type stuff. I mean, I haven't done too much with it, so I'm really trying to decide if I want to keep going at it, because I was thinking about maybe using this particular one as my daily driver, but I'm not entirely certain right now, so I'm just gonna keep chipping away at it because I'm still experimenting with it. But I'll see what I want to do. So I mean, right now it's just on my my laptop, so it's not like it's going to impact me too much at the end of the day. But yeah, that's really mostly everything that's happened this past week, and that's noteworthy.
All right. Well, on my end, of course, we had the 24-hour live stream Friday, Saturday, and that was went reasonably well. Not the best fundraising I've had, but still did pretty well. So overall, I was satisfied with it. Got some good game time and all that. What was a bit of a frustration. So Sunday morning, we, were ready, got to church and everything to get everything set up. And then we found out that as a result of the storm that happened on Friday, it had caused some damage to the electrical stuff. So we had basically no power in key areas of the church, including the stage, which meant not only did we not have lights up there, but we didn't have speakers. We didn't have sound because of that. And then also the sound booth itself was out of commission. So, and the majority of the sanctuary had no lights either. So we ended up having to cancel church, they basically called it when we were like 40 minutes before we were about to start, because we knew that it just wasn't going to happen. There was no way it was going to get all sorted out. There was various other things that happened as a result of the storm at that building, but that was the biggest issue. So that was a bit of a frustration, but either way, it's taken care of now. They were able to fix it. I think sometime later that day, they were able to get it sorted out. Another thing that decided to break on me, though, during my live stream, you may or not remember, while we were doing the FMV game, that we had like a weird flash, which you didn't really see, but we mentioned that the monitor wasn't working. And it turns out from what I can tell, that the HDMI port on my laptop is fried. Got fried as a result of that. So I ended up just having to get a USB-C to HDMI adapter today, which is what I'm using now, so that I can actually use all 3 monitors and all that. And while it might not seem like it's a big deal, like if you don't have 3 monitors available, it was just the way I have things set up for the podcast and everything that it just makes it a lot more complicated. Plus also the fact that I use that HDMI port otherwise. And so the fact that it just, as far as I can tell with all the troubleshooting I've done, it just seems to be, it's that port. I don't know what else to do. So the adapter was the one thing I could do last minute. So, but yeah, I might get it taking a look at it at some point, see if someone can either determine whether or not there's some other way to fix it, or see if they can replace it without it being ridiculous, because I'm not going to spend a bunch of money to get it fixed. But yeah, so that's a bummer. But at least it's working well enough. Oh, and the my headphone cable decided, well, the headphone extender cable decided to crap out on me, which happens, like, it seems like every time I get an extension cable for one of those, after 6 months to a year, it craps out on me, and then I end up having to either replace it or just deal without it, and I haven't replaced it yet. So my headphone cable's shorter. I can't stretch as far because it's, not a very long cable. It's like a 3-foot cable, so it is what it is. Most of the time it's not really a problem. It's mostly just like if I need to let the dog out or something during the podcast, normally I can stretch over and reach over and do it. But now I have to remember, I need to actually take off my headphones in those situations in order to be able to pull that off. So, but yeah, did some extra like smoking of stuff, and so that was fun, and stuff came out pretty good. But otherwise, I really can't think of anything out of the ordinary that's happened. Been pretty standard week otherwise. So,
what were you smoking?
Well, I did some turkey breast, because we usually would buy like a pre-made turkey breast that we slice up for lunch meat, for especially my son loves it, and so it's just like a regular lunch thing. But they haven't had it at Sam's in quite a while, and so I finally just went ahead and got some turkey breast from Walmart. But it turns out it's like the whole, including the bone and everything, so it's just like this whole huge section. And I didn't brine it because I thought that it, from the way it was described, it sounded like it had already potentially been brined. I didn't want it to get overly salty. Turns out it really hadn't been, so I ended up I smoked it, and then I kind of brined it a bit in chicken broth, and that seems to have made it better. Not quite as good as the other stuff we get, but next time I'll just do a full regular brine. And then the other thing I brined was, brined and smoked was a beef rump roast from the half cow we have. So it's the first time I've done roast beef successfully, in my opinion. So I'm pretty happy with that. But yeah.
Okay. And do you have any idea on when your church will have power successfully
it's already been fixed. It got fixed later
Oh.
that day. It's just that it wasn't something that could be fixed with that short a notice. Especially because then like the music team didn't have a chance to practice and everything beforehand, because there just wouldn't be enough time for all that. And it was just like, okay, if we could get someone out, and if they could diagnose it quickly enough and get it fixed, then potentially we could have had the service. But it was like, it would have been cutting it super close, and I don't think there was any way it would have happened. I think it took probably 2-3 hours for them to get it all fixed. So it was just like, it was unfortunate, but just everything basically got pushed back a week. So.
Okay. All right.
But anyway, what have you been playing this week?
Well, I've been playing a little bit more than I have been these past few weeks. First, I'll just get this one out of the way. Played some Marvel Cosmic Invasion. My buddy was sick this past week, so we didn't do the co-op stuff like we intended on doing, but I pretty much was just grinding out throughout the game, trying to level up some more characters and also knock out some achievements tied to each specific character, and then also just get some overall general stuff like completing all the challenges, finding all the cubes, trying to get all the unlockables. So stuff like that is pretty much what I've been doing. And we're supposed to get back tomorrow and play some more. Hopefully that happens, just because I'm sort of hitting the point where I'm at a wall right now where I just like need to progress with the actual campaign so I can unlock like the next characters, next stages and stuff, so I can just get more progress done. But I still made decent progress with what I have been playing by myself so far, so there's that. And then, because you had mentioned this last week, I decided to get back to Expedition 33, and I wanted to progress finally through Verso's drafts, and I made it to the end, and thinking of, or at least I'm pretty certain this is the end, but looking back, this area really isn't all that long. Like, it's probably one of the shorter areas in the game. Granted, this was just like a bonus thing that was tossed in for free, but yeah, I'm at the final fight, and facing off against Oskio, and he's just as enjoyable as Eskia is, just because of how Eskia she is. I mean, it's just very funny when you first meet him. But fighting him though, that is definitely quite a bit of a challenge, and it's been a while since I've played the game, so I realized that I haven't gone back and reset or reconfigured some of my party moves, so that kind of threw me off a bit there. But so as I was going through his fight, some moves he has aren't that bad as far as how much damage you take. Now they're very fast. Let me put it like that. They're definitely fast, but they don't hit as hard as I thought they would, or at least some moves hit harder than I thought they would. Other moves not so much. So it sort of got to a point where it was just more so a battle of attrition, because essentially CL would die, but because of some of her Pictos, Oskio would essentially be right on the verge of breaking every time she died, and then my other party members would get, pretty much full health back. Additionally, I would always sort of like have setups built ahead of time for the most part, and so because of that, I was able to eventually get him right near the end of the fight, and then there was a second phase, and then I was like, all right, that's not bad, let's do it. And so it didn't seem so bad at first until I realized that now his attacks they add a debuff that is that's sort of related to that area. I can't remember what it does exactly, but it prevents you from doing some things, and essentially I think I can't remember exactly what it is, but essentially it does make things a tad bit harder. Additionally, he has a laser that he fires from his belt that is just devastating. So I didn't exactly make it through the second phase, so I'm gonna eventually try again, and I think I'll go back and look at all my moves and try to reconfigure things, and try to do better this time. But it definitely was interesting just going into the fight to begin with. But yeah. So then I went back and played some more Castlevania Portrait of Ruin, and I did some more of the Richter mode. I made some decent progress, got through some more paintings, got through some more areas in the castle, fought one of the sisters that you encounter, and I made a bit further, and I was going through the clock tower, and essentially, actually, because of Richter's super jump ability, you could essentially go to Death's Chamber from from the opposite end. So normally you would go in from one side because the elevator doesn't work yet, but because Richter has a super jump, you could just go super jump all the way to the top of the tower and then just approach him from the other side. But I decided, I don't want to face him just yet, so I think I'll go to the clock tower. And as I was going through, unfortunately, the Medusa heads were just knocking me into spikes, and I saw this one health power-up. And I said, if I can get to that power-up, I will be able to, what was it saying? Oh yeah, I will be able to get my full health back and recover fully. So I went back and I said, okay, I'm gonna try to jump and make it to that health power-up, get all my health back, and then try to find the next save room. Unfortunately, I jumped, a Medusa head hit me, and I fell on a spike and died, and I was just a bit irritated because I made quite a bit of progress. I mean, granted, I didn't lose too much progress, I realized, because I did actually save at the previous save point I had found, so it's not like I lost too much progress, but at the same time, I just was a bit irritated by losing what I had. So I took a break from that. But I did end up then going and started playing Castlevania Order of Ecclesia. And I'm a bit mixed on this game. I initially was going to this game thinking, all right, I've heard a lot of good things about this one. This is one of the... It's probably, from what I've heard, tied with Dawn of Sorrow, if depending on who you speak to, edging out Dawn of Sorrow as being the best DS Castlevania game. And I went into it with that mindset, thinking, all right, this is going to be great. This is going to be awesome. I love Dawn of Sorrow. I want to see what happens here. And it's really different. So for one thing, Shinoa, who I really feel strongly, I'm really under the belief that her character design influenced Miriam in Bloodstained, since that's also a Koji game. So I went in thinking, I was like, all right, cool, let's get started. Her attacks essentially are tied to the magic bar. So every attack you use, no matter which weapon you use, it has it consumes magic. So that means that after a certain amount of hits, you do have to wait for your magic bar to refill itself. And it's not too bad. It doesn't take too long because it's probably about 2 seconds, then it starts filling up again pretty quickly. But at the same time, it can be a bit annoying. And there is one thing where at least initially when you start playing the game, it suggests trying to use a combination of X and Y for a weapon so that way you can string combos together. I really wasn't too fond of that idea, just because of the fact that having to just rapidly tap X and Y back and forth repeatedly just wasn't doing much for me, and I would rather just have one dedicated button. Now, the plus side is if you can actually use another weapon instead of just using the same weapon twice for both buttons, so you can have one weapon, be a sword, other weapon be a magic attack, for example, or just be another different type of weapon altogether. So that is something you can do, and I think that definitely works better rather than just having the same weapon and trying to just string it together a combo that way, because like I said, it's just kind of annoying and to do that. You can unlike other games where you find weapons and stuff and you can find new, I guess, items and skills, you get your abilities from enemies themselves, and it is sort of a random drop type of thing, and you just sort of have to absorb them. I mean, there are also other ones you can find throughout levels and absorb them that way as well. And which also reminds me, unlike most of the Igavania Castlevania games, this one kind of is a blend between the Metroidvania style and the classic Castlevania games, because you go from area to area. It's not like each it's not like you're in a giant area and everything's connected together like a castle. You do go from one point to another point, and you just have to go through that particular map, and that's all there's in that area, and you can go back to another area as you wish. So it's different in that sense. I've probably made it through several bosses so far, probably I think about 3, and I'm probably now I've unlocked probably 8 areas. I don't know how many there are in total. It's getting better as I've played the game, but at the same time, I'm not certain if I would say that, I mean, I don't think I would say it's probably one of the better ones. Granted, I know that with Portrait of Ruin, it did take me a while before I actually started to really enjoy the game, so I might have to just play some more before I say, hey, this game is great, or I decide this game was meh. But as it stands right now, though, I would say that Dawn of Sorrow definitely is the best of the 3 DS titles. But I'll just have to wait and see, and keep playing some more of this. But yeah, that's it for that game. And yeah, those are actually all the games that I've played so far.
All right. Yeah, I'm just trying to think here. Looking at this, the way you described the way the weapons function, it sounded almost like you were saying that they're kind of like, I mean, they use your magic to the point where it's like, oh, you eventually run out of magic power and then you can't attack, and looks like it's more similar to basically a stamina system. So that's
yes. Actually,
not quite.
That's a better way to describe it.
That's not quite as bad as it sounded initially. So. Especially considering, how many Souls type games I play and everything, to where I'm used to dealing with the stamina and all that. So, but yeah, looks pretty cool. Yeah, going back to Marvel Cosmic Invasion, that one definitely looks like a fun kind of game for sure. I just, I have a lot of games, and so not exactly a priority for me by any stretch, but. Good stuff. All right, so I don't have clips for absolutely everything here. Mostly just because, or well, I should say I don't have new clips for everything. So I'll kind of just first mention the ones I probably played the least. So I did play some more Death Stranding 2. I actually, made some more progress in the story, and this is one where well, I mean, of course, the story stuff was pretty great, but I didn't play a ton. It's basically I just played during my 24-hour stream. I think it was probably the 3rd game I played during the stream, and I played that for like an hour or 2 before I decided to switch over to something else, but still enjoying it. Just I think it was more that I was at like kind of a good break point. In fact, actually, now that I think about it, it was that I had been playing it, and then my kids got home from homeschool co-op, and they wanted to play something with me, so I ended up playing some Goat Simulator 3 with them, which I don't have any footage for. But yeah, just did some of that with them, and I think I probably would have had more fun with it if it wasn't for the fact that because I was using the Switch Pro controller, all of the button functions were not mapped according to what they would be on Switch, and so it's like the buttons you would when I see the Y button, I'm automatically expecting it to be on top, and A to be on the bottom, and B to be on the right, and X to be on the left. And so I'm like pressing the wrong buttons frequently, trying to do these different things. And of course I barely played the game at all. The kids have played it a bunch and I barely touched it. So I'm just not having as good of a time with it as I would hoped. Plus, of course, I still had to find time to actually like cook the pizza and stuff, because I had put together the pizza the night before and then actually was going to cook it on Friday, and So it was just the timing on everything was weird on Friday, and so I didn't get as much time with Death Stranding 2 as I'd originally planned. And then so yeah, I didn't play as much of that as I would have wanted to. Something that I actually started off the stream with, though, was Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance. And basically, the thing that actually motivated me to play this one was I was listening to, part of what I do for my Bible reading devotion stuff each morning is I will listen to the audio Bible. And I happened to be going through Ezekiel, and I came to Ezekiel chapter 28, where it's talking about Lucifer and his fall. And I mean, not specifically mention Lucifer. It doesn't mention his name, but it's very clear that's who it's talking about. And that just made me think of SMT, because SMT has lots of their versions of gods and angels and demons and so on and so forth that are obviously not based in biblical theology or anything, but it still just made me think of that. And it's like, well, I haven't played this in a while. So I decided to boot that up, and I played for probably an hour at the beginning of the stream, give or take. So yeah, not a whole lot, just very, very slightly moved the needle on that. I just haven't quite been in the mood for it. And the other thing is, I'm having to refamiliarize myself with the mechanics and everything, because there's just enough difference between that and Persona to where I just have to kind of remind myself of the differences. So I didn't play a lot of that. But I did end up playing quite a lot of Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, which I actually played the rest of it on stream. I did, let's see here. Well, I think the only boss fight I did not do on stream was the first boss fight against Ocelot. I did the rest of them during the stream. Because I did Ocelot on Wednesday when I did a test stream, and I had done the first half of the pain, but then we had a power outage during the storm, and so power went out and I wasn't able to finish that. But then I ended up just playing the rest of the game throughout the course of the 24-hour stream and finished the entirety of it. And the footage just playing is just two of the boss fights. Not the majority of them, because I didn't record them directly, and I didn't really feel like tearing through the 24-hour stream segments in order to get them all in there. But yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it, despite the dumb mistakes I made on fights, particularly with the Fury, where I just kept being way too greedy and then ended up getting myself killed repeatedly, instead of just shooting him 3 times and then running away, shooting him 3 times and running away. And that made it a lot easier once I started doing that. But yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. Fantastic game, fantastic remake. And if you want the prettiest version of the game and your computer or your console can handle it, then by all means play this one. But the original is also still amazing, and really the only major difference is the visuals. So yeah, good stuff. But then let's see here. Apart from that, I'm just trying to make sure I cover everything. Since I finished that and I still had some time before my stream was over, I downloaded and started up the demo for Dino Blade, which is basically a 3D Souls-like, where you play as a dinosaur with a sword, and you fight other dinosaurs with swords and axes and hammers and stuff like that. So, the only real difference in terms of Souls-like mechanics, from what I could tell, having played it, played through the entirety of the demos, I played through the first boss, a little past the first boss in the demo on Saturday morning, and then I played the rest of the game, or the rest of the demo, this afternoon, just to record some footage. And it looked, when you when you die, you lose, I think, like whatever the experience type resources, so the thing that you use to upgrade, because there's like a skill tree and stuff. Skill points basically is what you're losing, but you don't lose levels, so or you don't like lose anything that would enable you to gain levels. You still level up normally. I don't know, I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to how much stats improve without you manually doing it yourself, but the amount of points that you get, those skill points, you get those a lot more quickly and easily, to where you can just kind of apply them wherever you want, and you can get, and it's not like, oh, you do, one bump up at a time. It's more like you can do a bunch all at once and that sort of thing for various stats and all that stuff. So yeah, my overall thoughts on the game, I will mention, just in terms of performance, runs pretty well. I capped it at 120 FPS, and it seemed like it maintained that pretty well with settings maxed out on my desktop. I didn't try playing it natively on the Steam Deck. I just streamed it to my Steam Deck earlier today to play the rest of the demo, but that worked just fine. And so performance seems to be fairly reasonable. I think the game could definitely use a lot of polishing. One of the probably the biggest issue I had with it was just that the camera, at least when you're using a joystick, is super sensitive. And it was sensitive to the point where sometimes it would just be like, I'd barely touch it and it would like turn very hard. And I could see that being useful if you're wanting to easily be able to, react to enemies behind you and all that. But when that's not what you're wanting to do, like I would personally rather just have the ability to I'd rather have the camera not quite as sensitive, or at least be able to adjust it myself more easily. But the way that the settings were, it seemed like it was already set pretty low on sensitivity, and I don't know. Anyway, point is that's like the one complaint I have about it. And I just think some aspects of the game feel a little janky, but it also is just, just a demo. The game isn't out yet, so there's still time for them to improve some things. That being said, I enjoyed it enough to where if it's not expensive, I might pick it up when it comes out, but I honestly just haven't fully decided. The demo just had 3 bosses, 2 like regular type bosses, then 1 like bigger, tougher boss. Actually, I think it might have actually technically had 4 bosses, because I believe, if I remember correctly, that when you start the game, you fight the boss that's essentially the boss that's the last boss of the demo. But the first time you fight him, you're way underpowered, and so you die pretty quickly. At least unless you have more skill than I do anyway. And I may be remembering that wrong, because it's been several days since I played that part of the demo, but either way, I fought him, today, and only took me a couple tries to beat him, but nevertheless, it's interesting enough to where I'm interested in at least potentially checking it out further later on. I mean, it was pretty fun, so there's that. Then there was a whole lot of Salt and Sacrifice. Now, this one didn't end up being like necessarily as much as I originally thought it would be, because I originally had planned to play some of it during Extra Life, and then I ended up, because I just got hooked on Delta, I decided to play through the entirety of that. And initially I had kind of hit like a bit of a wall on Salt and Sacrifice. Basically, it's just the Monster Hunter-esque mechanics that people mentioned. It's pretty accurate. So to kind of clarify on that a bit further, after you initially like kill the mages that you chase them, they go to their arena, and then after you kill them, they're gone. But they will randomly spawn again later on, and then you don't have to chase them all the way to an arena. You kind of just chase them around until you kill them, and you can kill them pretty much wherever if you can do enough damage. So that was what I ended up doing. I've done that quite a bit, and I fought I think probably 6 or 7 mages that have been in the arena. Some of them are just kind of repeats of earlier ones that are tougher. Like there's one of the ones that I fought, which I think was the first mage I fought when I was playing before. And the first time I fought him, he wasn't overly difficult. The second time, the tougher version of him summons one of those eyeball things that floats around and gives him shields, like in Salt and Sanctuary. Except that instead of it being like, oh, there's just, one hanging around, once you kill it, it's gone. It's more like, no, he's summoned these things constantly. After you kill one, then he summons another one. And so he's getting shielded regularly, and that made that fight kind of a pain. But I think I fought I want to say 3 or 4 proper bosses, and then the rest have been the mages, which are named bosses, but they're not the main bosses of the game. They're basically filler bosses that you'll see, more often, because they will show up as random enemies that will run around. They're definitely, I think they're much easier outside of the first time you fight them, because of the fact that you're not put in a locked arena. You can run away from them and stuff like you would be able to in Monster Hunter, and you do get materials from them and some from the enemies they spawn, which enable you to get weapons and armor and stuff that are based on them, but it's not quite as, it doesn't feel grindy in the same sense that Monster Hunter does. So I haven't really been all that interested in most of their sets. Pretty much I've gone okay, I want to get some of the weapons just to try out some different ones. That's usually pretty easy to do. And then getting an accessory that'll make it so your poison or your electric or whatever attack is stronger, or, an amulet that reduces the damage from a particular element, that sort of thing. So there's all that, but I had basically just kind of hit a little bit of a wall. Just one of the regular bosses. There's this spider lady that kind of reminds me of Quelaag, but much more of a pain in the butt to beat. And eventually I figured out how to beat her, and I took her out. So there was that. But yeah, once I finally got past her, I was able to get back into the game some more, and then I was able to enjoy myself considerably more. And so I've been playing a decent amount past couple days, and yeah, overall I'm still enjoying the game. I like Salt and Sanctuary better, but there are definitely things I like about this one. And I will say one thing that I do really like is that it seems like they do more Metroidvania type stuff than Salt and Sanctuary did. Because Salt and Sanctuary, yeah, it had some of that, but you only had 4 brands, I think, for the whole thing, and it felt like they were used pretty limited for a lot of the game. And then it eventually you'd get to a point where, okay, there's a handful of places you can get to now with a particular brand, but it wasn't nearly as much. Whereas this one, it's okay, you get the grappling hook, and then you eventually get I can't remember what the name of the other upgrade is, but it basically just lets you activate these pulley systems that let you get to some areas that you couldn't previously access, and things like that. And then there's plenty of the doors that don't open from this side, all the Dark Souls. But yeah, there are some things I really like about this game, and some things that I definitely would say I like the previous game more. But as an overall, I've been enjoying it. Yeah. But there's one last game I want to talk about, and unfortunately I didn't record all the footage that I thought I did, because I guess I had stopped it and forgot to restart it. But after all the positive things I've been hearing, particularly just my feelings about how I feel like it's promoting very positive things in this world right now, that should be promoted. I grabbed Pragmata. The thing with Pragmata, mostly what drove me to buy it was that I feel like it's promoting a very positive message of like a father figure for a little girl. And I mean, yes, she's a robot. I mean, she's an AI robot thing. And so she's not actually like human, but she very much acts like a human girl. And that that's something that it's also been like it's been making a lot of people really reconsider having kids. And it seems like even people who have been like very adamantly against having kids, they're playing this game and they're like, now I want kids. And I feel so good about that. And I mean, you know, I'm sure part of it is probably they're trying to improve the birth rate in Japan, because Japan has such a horrendously low birth rate. But it's also something that really does impact the US and the world in general, because, you know, people see this and, you know, people who aren't heartless or, you know, have weird ideas about what it's actually promoting can recognize this message and, you know, the reality that this is pretty accurate to what it's like having a little girl. And I mean, I know because I have a 7-year-old daughter, and it's like, you know, yeah, my daughter's like this. And so that message, you know, that it seems to really be promoting, and the fact that it is a positive example of like a father figure with a daughter, made me want to buy the game. So I decided to support it, and I haven't played very much. I basically just got through the first, I guess you could call it the first level of the game. So essentially it is the same area that was in the demo, except that it's laid out a little bit differently, and like some of the collectibles and that sort of thing are a bit different. So it's not entirely different, but it's different enough to where it's like, okay, yes, this is definitely not exactly the same as it was in the demo. And is a little bit further along than the demo was. So the demo was just kind of set up a bit differently. But yeah, so I basically just got through that same boss fight that I did in the demo originally, and didn't play much past that. So I think I played like probably 30 minutes or something, and yeah, probably about 30 minutes total. I played a little bit on the Steam Deck, and you know, that's as before, basically getting about 40 FPS is pretty average. A couple dips into the 30s, unfortunately, but the 40 seems to be pretty solid when I was playing it that way. And then the rest of the time I played on my desktop, and of course, desktop with ray tracing, I would get in the like 100 to 120 range. And, you know, and that's with all those settings maxed and everything. I can't do path tracing because I don't have an NVIDIA card, but I wouldn't want to do that anyway. But then if I do it without ray tracing, then I can get, I'm getting like 150 to 180 range is pretty average. Of course, it still looks amazing even without ray tracing. I mean, like, the ray tracing looks good, and the fact that it runs as well as it does with ray tracing made me consider using that, but I just decided, because of the fact that it was still definitely more significant in terms, I mean, like, there was enough of a performance difference to where I preferred just playing without ray tracing. You know, it's just, it performs so much better without it, so I'd much rather just play without it. And so so that's exactly what I did. I think it's actually doing a bit better than it was in the demo. Maybe not significantly, but at least a little bit. So there's that. But yeah, the game looks and runs amazing. You know, plays really well. Honestly, the only thing that's like more of a skill issue for me is getting used to the hacking again, because even though I played through the demo several times, when I played, it seems like, well, for one, I think the enemies are a little more aggressive in this, maybe, than they were in the demo, but it's also just, I have to remember, oh yeah, when I'm aiming down sights and doing the hacking thing, I can't dodge, and so I have to make sure that I have to stop aiming down sights so that I can back out of the hacking thing, in order to be able to actually dodge and not get hit by enemy attacks. So yeah. But I like what I played. I know this is supposed to be a pretty short game, so it may end up just being that I play all the way through it. At least, like probably like that, and Salt and Sacrifice a bit. We'll kind of just play it by ear on that front. But, I know that this is a pretty short game, so I don't think it would be something that would be... If I step away from other games for a little bit to play this, it's not really that big of a deal, because it's, going to be a short game. So, but yeah, I think that's really all I have to say as far as games go. Oh, actually, I do have one last one to mention. I don't have any footage recorded, but, as I referenced in my life portion, my wife and I played an FMV game called Bloodshore, which is M-rated, so it's not appropriate for most, but it's basically just, it gets pretty gory and there's a good amount of language. But yeah, that was pretty fun. It's just basically, they record a full movie with a bunch of different potential scenarios. It's a choose your own adventure kind of thing. So depending on which choices you make, it determines how the story goes, and what options become available, and so on and so forth. So yeah, it was pretty fun to play through that, and I think I would actually probably play through it some more. I'd probably just do it on my own, because my wife didn't really want to do it again, but we'd probably just like boot it up on Steam Deck or something, because I know it's not going to take anything to run it, since it's just basically playing a movie the whole time with some decision making. But yeah, that's everything.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you if you had gone back and played through any of the other scenarios to get the other endings for that, or not, but
yeah, not yet.
You said you hadn't gone back to that. All right. So for Metal Gear Solid Delta, man, it was enjoyable watching you play that through the live stream, and it made me really want to go back to Metal Gear Solid 3, just because it is like, because I played that one originally on the 3DS, and that was actually the first Metal Gear game I ever played. But I really want to go back, because for one thing, I never finished Metal Gear Solid 3, so watching you play that made me think, man, I really need to go back and actually complete the game and do it and whatnot. But I'm like, I should actually just go ahead and get the game, just because playing it on the 3DS at
yeah, even if you have the new 3DS, the best you can do is 30 FPS, so it's not really...
It's like, if I can do 60, why not do 60? Yeah. And that would be more enjoyable. So yeah, I might do that at some point. But it still was just enjoyable watching you go through there and trying to non-lethally take out enemies too, and whatnot, yeah, it was enjoyable. Now, it's a shame that you weren't able to get the one camo. But at least you got the infinite ammo ability. After playing the game without killing a single enemy. Which how difficult was that, would you say, to go through the entire game non-lethally?
It's not overly difficult. You just have to be careful, really. That's what it comes down to. And it seems like if as long as you aren't actually the one killing them, like enemies that enemies who like fall to their death after you've tranked them, it doesn't count as deaths.
Okay.
on your side, because I had a few enemies that I knocked out, and then like they fell into the water, they fell off a cliff, and it didn't count it as me killing them.
And of course, bosses are, don't count either, so that's fine. Yeah.
No, they do.
Oh,
Well, at least technically they don't, because they die regardless of which way you take them out, but you do have to take them out with non-lethal methods in order for it to not count as a kill.
Okay.
Because basically they commit suicide is really what it comes down to.
Okay, yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sense then. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, it really just made me watching you play just really made me say I need to go back and play this game, because it was enjoyable for what I played of it. Now, I know you said, of course, if you can, get the Delta version, if you had to just, say one way or another, I mean, because you said like the visuals were literally the big thing. So if someone asked you, hey, should I get the if I should get Delta, or if I should just get the Master Collection and get 3, which would you rather say someone get?
I mean, I think it would just really depend on how much they care about visuals, because obviously Delta looks way better. It's just the newest, shiniest looking version, but playing the original, I mean, the art style still holds up really well, and of course the gameplay is nearly identical. Really, there's just some quality of life improvements for this game in Delta, but even then, like, for example, the crouch walk that they added, which they also, had added previously to the 3DS version, the crouch walk honestly is not all that useful. Really, the biggest thing that's helpful is the third person, the over the shoulder aiming, where you don't have to do first person, because you basically you go in. Well, I can't remember if there's no over the shoulder aiming in the other versions of the game, just in the 3DS and Delta versions. But there is, I think first person is the only way that you can aim in any of the other versions. So, but yeah, I mean, like I said, it's really just a matter of how much a person cares about visuals, because if someone wants the newest, shiniest graphics, Delta is the obvious choice. But if they want the gameplay and they truly don't care about the graphics, or they want to experience it in its original form, then I would say, yeah, get the original, because the original is better from that standpoint, and it's going to run well no matter where you're playing it. Well, I should say, on any modern platform, it will run well. And of course, if you get the Master Collection, then you also get 1 and 2, which are also excellent games. So.
Okay. And and Salt and Sacrifice. So, I was very surprised to hear you say that you weren't certain how you felt about the game, but I guess I'll sort of leave saying that things were looking better. So I'm glad that the obstacle of the wall has been surpassed. Now, about the mages, you did say that they show up randomly, and of course, take them out. Do you have to take them out, or is it just something you can ignore? Like
you can definitely ignore them, just like you would with monsters and Monster Hunter. It's only if you're specifically hunting them that you have to fight them.
Okay. And and so far it seems like those are still just the only things that are related to the Monster Hunter. Like the regular bosses are still
right.
Just like
they're in a set specific area, and you fight them once, and that's it.
Okay. All right. I mean, yeah, I still might go ahead and get the game on sale, because initially when you were saying, like,
just wait for the sale. There's no reason to do anything else, especially since you're playing other games right now.
Okay.
I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that I bought the physical versions of these, then I probably wouldn't be playing this one right now.
Okay. I actually I can't remember how many main bosses have you said you've beaten so far?
It's either 3 or 4.
Okay. And that's like apart from the mages?
Right. Yeah, okay. There's like, I don't know how many mages there are. I want to say I've done like probably 6 or 7 different mages, and then like another 3 or 4 regular bosses.
And would you say these bosses have been easier or harder, or I guess more, or it's average the same?
Pretty similar in terms of difficulty. Definitely the spider lady was the one that gave me the most trouble so far.
Okay. Oh, and I guess last questions I had were for Dino Blade. So I definitely can see where you were coming from with about the janky. I mean, some of the jumps did look like they were kind of off, but I mean, overall, the combat did seem kind of interesting. I did like the idea. Now, of course, I can't necessarily relate to how the camera felt, since playing it and seeing it are two completely different things, but hopefully that's something that they can fix out when the game releases. I'll probably give the demo a try at some point, and just to see how it is. Because I'm hoping they weren't trying to probably think about a mouse and keyboard scenario, because I'm like having such a high sensitivity would make sense probably if you were using a mouse, but I'm like,
right,
a Souls game, typically you're gonna be using a controller for that primarily. I mean, of course there are people who use mouse and keyboard, but it just seems odd that they would have that type of mindset for in that case scenario. So I don't know. I'll give it a whirl. Maybe I'll try it this weekend and see what happens. But yeah, it'll be interesting. But yeah, I'm glad you tried that, because I had thought about it, the game, but I forgot about it until you brought it up this past weekend.
Yeah, I think the demo took me about 2 hours altogether, and that was with a handful of deaths in there. So, but yeah, it's basically after you beat the third boss, you collect like their soul essentially, and then you walk up to a rock and break it apart, and then like the next like sword weapon you have an option to grab is there, and the demo ends right there before you get a chance to even grab the sword. So it's like, oh well. But yeah, I do think I'll probably end up checking this one out when it really releases. But I mean, it's gonna depend on the cost, because I'm not spending $70 on this. But like if it's a $20-$30 game, I would probably grab it. So yeah. Anything else?
No, sir.
All right. Well, let's get into the news. And I got to be honest, like a lot of these topics are going to feel kind of like rehashes, because it's basically just like 2 of the topics are basically follow-ups to what we talked about last week, but we're going to talk about them anyway. So, I think first of all, I want to talk about that Steam controller. So, the short version of this is that it was found within Steam database that there is a video about the Steam controller. It's a Steam controller unboxing video. And no one's actually had a chance to actually look at the video, but the fact that it's in the Steam database says that it's probably coming very soon. And I feel like there was a little more to the story than that, but either way, yeah, I guess I think that was pretty much it. If there's anything I missed, you can of course bring that up, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so this definitely is a bit of a surprise to hear that there's a video coming. And also for me, it's a bit disappointing just because it definitely would it definitely would imply that Valve is just going to go ahead and uh sell the controller separately. They're not going to wait for, the Steam machine and Steam frame to be ready. They're
Hmm.
just going to go ahead and, hey, here's the controller. Here it is. Which I'm also hoping. I'm hoping that this also doesn't mean that there won't be some sort of bundle because they're going ahead and selling the controller separately. Um, I mean, they can still obviously down the road when the Steam frame and Steam machine come out say, hey, here's a bundle. We've got we've got the Steam machine, we've got the VR headset, and we've got a controller bundled for you
Hmm.
at a discount. They can still do that, but at the same time, I feel like them selling the controller separately right now um, makes me feel like maybe they won't do that later on. But that could definitely change. I mean, the good news though, it means that we can get the Steam controller sooner than later,
Hmm. Yep.
which definitely would be great. Now, as a result, how soon that could happen, I don't know. If there's a video having the unboxing, my guess is maybe in May, so next month essentially. Um, they'll that's probably when they're going to go ahead and at least have pre-orders if they're not ready. Just go ahead and start shipping out units. Since essentially we know that they have the units, like they've been
Yeah.
imported, they've arrived, so they're here. It's like Valve has them. So I think it's going to just be a matter of, hey, whenever they put out the thing, it's essentially ready to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm guessing May though is when we could, when Valve will actually say something about this.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all. And of course, May is just right around the corner. So that'd be good. I mean, obviously, I want this controller badly. The only thing that makes me okay with waiting a little bit longer is I still want to record that controller review video for the QRD. Um, maybe soon. I think like it's hard to say right now because we need to get stuff ready to try to do a garage sale because there's like a community-wide garage sale where we don't have to pay anything extra to do it in. So we want to try to do it soon. I mean, we want to try to do it at the same time everybody else is doing it. And I think that's like maybe the first weekend in May, I'm pretty sure is when it is. So, like I really want to we need to get stuff ready. And so I'm hoping with the Saturday actually not having anything else specifically planned, maybe we can work on that, which means I probably won't have time to do the video. Um, but I also just kind of want to buckle down and just get the video done because I have most of the stuff written out and there will be some modifications from what I originally wrote because I've had a lot more time with the controller. But even with that being said, I would like to get that taken care of before the Steam controller comes out because the Steam controller is going to replace every other controller for me with pretty much no question. And I do want to, review this controller because I really like this controller. It's been basically my main controller. But anyway, going back to the main topic, yeah, I just like I'm ready for this controller. I'm ready for the Steam controller to come out and to be able to grab a couple of them. Um, I doubt I would grab more than two, at least initially, unless they're like really good price. Like if it were $50 a piece, I might consider grabbing more than two. But even then, I'm kind of like, well, one for me, one for the kids. That's probably good enough. So, yeah. But I mean, I can't help being excited about this controller because it's like it's what I've been asking for years. And it is going to replace every other controller for me because it does everything. I mean, honestly, like the only thing it doesn't do, at least as far as I know, is some of the DualSense features. But even those, it's like, well, I have a DualSense. If I really want those, like for Returnal, for example, which is the only game where I actually found like the features were worth using the DualSense, then I have that controller. But for every other game, I can just keep using, I can use the Steam controller, and it has all the features I want. The back buttons, the gyro, the touchpads, everything. It's like it's got absolutely everything I want in a controller, and yeah. So the only thing I'm really worried about is the price. What is that going to be? I mean, I would think that because of the fact that this one is not affected in the same way by the RAM increases and everything, that it should theoretically not be anywhere near, I mean, it shouldn't be ridiculous on price. There's not really any reason why they need to charge more than 70, 80 bucks for it. And hopefully they're not even charging that much. But at the same time, it's also got a lot of tech packed into it, and it is going to be a really nice controller, so I could kind of see them charging more. It's just I don't want them to charge more because I actually want to buy two of them. And if they're too expensive, then I'm not doing that. So, yeah. But that's really all the thoughts I have.
Yeah, I'm also hoping that the price is pretty reasonable. I mean, I'll only be getting one for right now, but once the Steam machine comes out, I'll get that, and that will have controller with it. And if they have a bundle, that'll get another controller with that, so I'll have 3 total in theory. But yeah, I at least want to get the one right now, and I'm hoping, like you said, it's not more than $70. It would be nice. 80 is definitely pushing it, but yeah. I'm hoping closer, 70, maybe $60. That would be nice, but
yeah,
we'll definitely have to wait and see on that. But hopefully, again, we'll hear something soon, because I would love to be able to pre-order one.
My biggest thing I'm wondering is what kind of limit are they going to set on it per account? Because they need to set a limit, because otherwise they're going to be scalpers taking advantage and buying out a bunch. But
my guess is maybe like 2.
I'm hoping that they say 2, because I think that's reasonable,
Yeah.
Because some people would want to have 2, and while yes, if they were cheap, I would buy 4 of them. I'd buy one for me and one for each of my kids, but I'm not planning on spending that much. And main thing is I just don't want scalpers to get a hold of, buy like 10 of them a piece, and then they're all gone in no time. And I mean, yes, thankfully Valve has stuff in place to keep it from, it's not as easy for scalpers to do that as they would be able to do it otherwise. I mean, like through other websites and everything, they can't use bots and all that quite as easily as they can otherwise. But it's also very possible that you could have people who have been preparing for this and already have a bunch of bot accounts set up so that they can take advantage of that. So we'll see what happens on that front. But I'm hoping maybe just maybe they'll also at least have some type of reservation system set up like they did with the Steam Deck for the Steam Machine and Steam Frame. Just for the sake of, it's like, even if we don't know the price right away, if we can like say, hey, I just want to have one held for me, and then when I see the price, I'll determine whether or not I'm actually getting them. Because like I'm basically at the point now where if the price is reasonable enough, I am getting all 3. Because I can see the advantages having the Steam Machine for a variety of reasons. Yeah, it's not super duper strong. It's roughly about the same as my laptop in terms of power. But the main thing is that it's a portable PC that my kids can take with them when we go on long trips, when we go to my in-laws for a couple weeks every year. Or, go on other long trips, and that way they have an access to a PC that they can play some PC games on away from home. But then it's something that I could also use for various things if I really wanted to. And the Steam Frame, I'm like, this one actually is the first VR headset that's appealing enough to me to where I'm like, okay, this is something I want to get. And this is something that, even if I don't play a whole lot of VR titles, I can use the other aspects of it, like having the screen projected in front of you for 2D games. And it's like, that's cool. I like that. That's a really cool feature. And I could see that being useful for certain things. But of course, obviously, I also want to play like Half-Life Alyx. And I do have a few VR titles in my library, were ones that I think in every situation, either they came with another copy of a game, or they were just freebies I got otherwise, because I wouldn't buy a VR title otherwise. So yeah.
Yeah, and that actually, you saying that makes me think, if Valve were to, release or sell the Steam controller, say whatever it is they do, would they possibly go ahead and just say like, hey, we're going to have reservations for the Steam machine, Steam frame?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, because if they do that, I think that would definitely be great. Even if we don't necessarily know, like you said, what the price is going to be, or maybe not even know when it releases.
Right.
If we're still at least in a queue, so that way, you know, all right, I know where I stand at least. So even if they don't ship until, say, October, maybe even later than that,
right?
At least I know, hey, whenever they're going to start rolling out, I know when I can expect to get it mine. And I mean, when they even started shipping out the Steam Decks, it's not like there was even a long wait period from when the queue started. So it's not like you really had to wait long either. So I thought that was pretty efficient for how they had things going.
Yeah. Yeah, it worked out well despite, the shortages and stuff they had at that time. And I mean, obviously it was different types of shortages, more chip issues than anything else, but yeah. Ultimately that did work out, even though definitely some people had to wait a lot longer than others. I mean, I got mine April of 2022, or early April. So, and it was, let me think. They had the the first day that they released them was February 28th of 2022, and so I got mine about a month and a half after that, or a little over a month after that. But yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on into the next topic, and I'll just let you pick which one you want to talk about.
All right. Let's see. I guess start off with Project Helix. So originally there was a rumor going around. This was originally posted on NeoGAF, and this was shared by who was it who shared it? It was in a thread, which the article didn't say it initially, but I think this was from Kepler, who had shared this initially. Okay, yeah, it was Kepler who initially shared this. Kepler L2, who of course is a famed insider, and he originally stated that Project Helix won't be sold directly to consumers, but you will be able to buy an Asus, MSI, etc. Helix machine. When asked if AMD would eventually sell the Helix chip. Now, however, the Xbox Vice President Jason Ronald quickly responded to that, saying that Project Helix will be available as a first-party Xbox console. However, he was later questioned on whether or not the Helix chip itself would be available to other hardware manufacturers and not just, the Xbox Helix. He didn't answer that question, and so as a result, sometimes silence speaks volumes. There are a couple things that I have about this, but I will let you give your thoughts on this situation.
Yeah, this one is weird. I think that's really just the best way to put it, is that it's weird, it's bizarre. Like, I don't know about... I'm hoping that this is not a repeat of the Steam Machine, of the original Steam Machine, because that was, honestly, I think that was a disaster. And yes, I guess this is different in the sense that it shouldn't be theoretically a bunch of different versions, but at the same time, it also sounds like it could be, because like the actual Project Helix is a first-party Xbox console, but if this chip is available to other manufacturers, then theoretically you could end up with variations that are not maybe Xbox branded, but basically are built the same, more or less. And so then it just ends up being a question of, okay, are these other ones just going to be branded as regular PCs? Or are they going to be branded as Xboxes? I mean, this whole thing is bizarre, and I hope that they can give some more clarification on that. I mean, ultimately, it doesn't affect us, but more than anything, I just don't want it to be a situation like it was with the Steam Machine, with the original Steam Machine, where because of the fact that there were various manufacturers making with different specs for the different machines, that it just caused a bunch of confusion, which is a big part of why it did so poorly. I mean, obviously, it's not the only reason. There's a lot of reasons, but that was certainly a big part of it. And while I'm not an Xbox person, someone who buys it, I've never bought an Xbox. I've never wanted to buy an Xbox, and I don't have any intention. Well, in fact, I'm going to say I'm not buying an Xbox Helix. I do want, particularly for people I know who are Xbox fans who are interested in this, regardless of the PC aspect of it, that they just want another Xbox. I just want it to be simple for them, because the whole point of having a console, even though it is a PC as well, and it's actually going to have Windows and everything and access to Steam and all of that, it's supposed to be the simple entry point for people. And I want people to have that option. Even though, yes, obviously I believe PC in general is better, the fact that Helix is going that direction where it's going to have access to that, basically have all that additional freedom, in addition to having the normal lockdown version of just, this is the basic storefront, everything else, and you can go through this, and then you have the simplified experience, but you still have access to all the other stuff. I think that this is probably the most pro-consumer console that's released, from what it sounds like. At least, in being technically a console, I think it is. Obviously, like, Steam Machine is by far going to be the most pro-consumer one, but it'll probably also be weaker than the Helix, more likely than not. And it's not going to have any of that Xbox branding or interface or anything like that. It's going to be all based on Valve and how they do things. So, the TLDL of all that is that I am confused on this, and I hope that Microsoft will unconfuse. Because if I'm confused about it, Xbox fans are going to be even more confused because they're not in the PC space. So, Microsoft, you got to get out there and explain what's going on with this. I mean, I guess they will whenever they're ready to reveal it, and they're not actually there yet, but still. Yeah, that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I definitely agree. This does seem to sound like it is another Steam Machine situation. However, I think Microsoft is in a better position than Valve was. Now, for one thing, Microsoft has, stated, here's Project Helix, here's the Xbox Helix, this is what it is, and they've also, directly said this is a first-party console. On the flip side of that, Valve didn't have that type of thing. Essentially, they had their prototype, but there was no definitive, this is a Valve-branded Steam Machine. Now, the closest thing to, I guess you could say, what would be considered the image of the Steam Machine was the Alienware R1. That was the closest thing to have, because if you type in like Steam Machine, that is essentially what you will see most of the time, is that like you can't even, you'd have to look hard to find the other Steam Machine versions, like the Zotac one or the I can't remember what the other ones were, but that the Alienware one is the one that you will see most frequently. I think that was even the one that Valve sold on their store when they were selling it. So, but still, despite that, though, you know, there was no definitive version that was actually branded by Valve. So, because of that, you know, there's more confusion as like, all right, so which one should I get? Whereas at least with the Helix, we know this one is specifically made by Microsoft. So if I want to get Helix and I want to get it specifically from Microsoft, I'm getting this one. Now, on the other hand, I think it's interesting that there will be other versions, because there could be certain things like Asus could, you know, make an ROG version, which might have, you know, say it might be an overclocked Helix essentially, which would be interesting to see that happen. Because, you know, you don't necessarily think about overclocking your consoles. So, you know, if Asus did something like that, I think that would be interesting to see. And I mean, it would be interesting just because, you know, for those who might want to see, hey, can I get extra performance out of this? That would be cool. I mean, sure, they might even have, say, you know, Asus might even have just like a dual settings where it's like, hey, here's the standard version, here's like an overclocked or like standard mode and overclocked mode, and say you can switch between the two as you wish. They might say, here's like the pros and cons of both, and it's up to you to decide which one you want to use. So I mean, I think that would be pretty cool to have. So I don't think it'll be too much of an issue on that end, and I think also because of the fact that, I mean, granted, that's been playing out a whole lot longer. I don't think too many manufacturers are going to be scrambling to make their own Xbox versions, just because they might not necessarily see the market for it. Like, say, like with the handhelds, like that was a pretty hot space. If they're going, and they're generally also just going to be primarily making PCs anyway. I mean, MSI makes their own PCs, Asus makes their own PCs. So I don't really see them saying, all right, why should we make a console when we could, you know, just continue doing what we have? And the console's not really a market that I mean, I personally just don't see it as being something that would be worthwhile getting into.
Yeah, true.
So I'm not necessarily too concerned about there being too many Xbox consoles. But like I said, if anything, it would just be maybe a couple other versions of the Helix. At most, I would say there were some more just like mainly enthusiast ones for those who want to say, hey, I want to overclock my Xbox, but Microsoft won't let me, but Asus will overclock it for me. So yeah, there's that. So I think it's interesting on one hand, and I don't think that's going to be as dangerous for Microsoft as it was for Valve. So I think they could probably handle it better, just because, like I said, they've got a first-party console already stated, and there won't be too many others trying to get into that market anyway. But yeah, I'll still be interested in seeing what happens though, because I think that will be fun to see.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is I still think that although for us it doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal in terms of, you know, if you have a couple of different options, the problem is that console gamers don't want that at all. They do not want different options unless it's like, there's the base model, there's the digital only version, there's the slim, you know, things like that. I mean, stuff that's simple to understand is one thing, but if you're just saying, oh, you know, here's the pros and cons, that's not going to fly for them. They do not want that. And that's just talking to people who play on console exclusively. It's like they consider PC to be too complicated. And things like this, I think, I mean, even though I thought about it a bit, and I realized that this type of situation could be something similar to how you'll have multiple manufacturers who will do an NVIDIA card. You know, you'll have the NVIDIA, I mean, you'll have the Founders Edition that's actually made by NVIDIA, but then you'll have, you know, the NVIDIA, the chip for that's going into these graphics card made by other company. You know, like EVGA, rest in peace, for example, did a bunch of NVIDIA cards in the past. Or, you know, you have Asus doing NVIDIA cards. I believe my 7900 XTX is a ASRock manufactured AMD card. So it's like, for us, like, yeah, we get that. And for the average person, like, from that standpoint, it could work. But the problem, the big difference there, of course, is that you're dealing with two completely different markets. Because, you know, on PC, it's like, you're not going to have a drastic difference from one to the other than the fact that it's going to cost different amounts. But for console gamers, they don't want it to be like, oh, there's a list of pros and cons between one and the other, having to do research. They just want to be like, I want the Xbox Helix, and so they grab the Xbox Helix. It's plain and simple. Now, one other thought I had about this, though, that could be the case, is that it could end up just being something along the lines of, they make the chip available to manufacturers, which can be used if they want to build a form factor PC, but they're not calling it an Xbox Helix. So basically, that same system on a chip is available for other manufacturers to use in their own PCs, but it won't actually be a Helix. It will just be a PC. Yeah, they won't even try to call it a console. They won't try to call it a Helix. They'll just be using that same chip, and then everything else will be completely different. That's the one thing I could see being the case, but it's honestly, it's just not clear right now, and so we have to hear what it is exactly that they're doing, because they haven't answered the question, and so yeah.
That actually would be interesting to see from several points, just because if they are using the chip to make a PC, I assume then it's just fully so on Windows and not using whatever modified Xbox version of Windows the Helix is going to have.
Right. Windows or even Linux, potentially.
That would be crazy. And also, that's another thing. I mean, you know, compatibility matters, and, you know, would it be compatible with, say, Linux or anything else like that. But also, if they're using that for a PC, this would be the very first powerful APU that would be on a PC, because everything else, every other APU is just like, okay, we've got a powerful CPU, but we've got integrated graphics that are not great at all. You know, so if that is the case, this would be the very first time where we've actually had on PC an APU that is just phenomenal. Which, I mean, I've wondered this before in the past, you know, why don't we have anything like the consoles do as far as APUs go? I mean, if we can have great CPUs and we can have great GPUs, we just can't have both together.
Yeah, but so, I mean, when you think about it realistically, though, the reason why we don't have that is because of the fact that they want us to be able to have. I mean, on PC we have a lot more options. We can do a lot more with it. Whereas, you know, if you're using an APU, yeah, there's benefits to it, and that you have everything on, you know, a small chip and all that. But then there's also the disadvantages that you're a lot more limited on the hardware that you have in general. Which is why, you know, like the PS5 Pro, the big difference between that and the original PS5 is that they added extra RAM. They added some separate RAM. I think they only added like 2 gigs, which is just basically enough just to do the operating system, and that's it. And then in addition, I think they'd like overclocked the chip basically for the APU, and then of course added the upscaler. So. And I mean, you know, there may be a little more to it than that. Honestly, I'm not 100% clear on that, because you get kind of conflicting information depending on who you ask. But regardless, the fact of the matter is that, like, the PS5 Pro, for example, has exactly the same CPU that you had on the original PS5, and which is why games aren't running significantly better than they are, because they could be running a lot better with a better CPU, but when the CPU is exactly the same, those games are all bottlenecked. And so yeah, you're getting quote unquote 4K, and you're getting upscaled 4K 60, which is great from the standpoint of, okay, it looks a whole lot better upscaled in general than it's going to look on other things. But because of the fact that it still has to upscale in order to get that, whereas when you have independent things and you actually have the ability to upgrade, it's a whole different story. So
yeah, and I wasn't knocking having discrete graphics or
right.
that, because I mean, I definitely would personally have discrete graphics, but I was just thinking from the standpoint of, hey, if I was trying to make an extremely, a special budget build PC, and I wanted to just say like slap an APU in there and do that. That I thought from that standpoint that would be great to do, but
yeah,
the APUs we have right now just aren't up to snuff to do all of that.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I could definitely see the advantages to having it for especially for a budget build. That would be really helpful. But, I know one of the major reasons why we don't have that on PC, and that's because of the fact that way they can get us to upgrade more often.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, not that it works all the time, because some of us don't upgrade that often. I went 7 years before it was 6 years. 6 years between when I built my main PC and actually upgraded it. But that's something that some of us have more self-control than others. I'll just put it that way. All right, any other thoughts on that before we move on to the last topic?
No, sir.
All right, so last week we talked about the potential for Game Pass prices to decrease, or just to change in general. And as of today, Game Pass Ultimate is dropping from $29.99 to $22.99, and that is starting today. But it's also losing Call of Duty. Call of Duty will not be day one going forward. So this doesn't apply to any previous Call of Duty titles that have already released for the service, but it is for all future ones. And from my understanding, Call of Duty is no longer an annual franchise, so the next one won't be out until 2027, and that one will not be a day one Game Pass release. And the I believe, from what I remember reading, is that basically the plan is that it's going to be it will be a year-ish from the time that the game releases to the time that it goes to Game Pass for Call of Duty. But either way, the price is dropping. Still expensive, but as far as I can tell, it's still going to include all of the day one games otherwise, just not Call of Duty. And just a little further clarification. So, Game Pass is dropping from $29.99 for Game Pass Ultimate to $22.99. And that's also $16.99 in pounds. But then PC Game Pass, which was up to $16.49 or £13.49 pounds, is dropping to $13.99 or £10.99 pounds. But that is the extent of what we have here. But what are your thoughts?
So it does seem like Asha Sharma, wasn't just all talk when she was saying that Xbox Game Pass was expensive and she wanted to make a change there. So I am pleased that something has happened. Like you said, it is still kind of costly, but I guess, Microsoft was saying, all right, people aren't, they're saying that it's becoming too expensive for consumers, and that's probably reflected upon sales and stuff, and how many people, are still subscribed, or how many people are beginning to subscribe to Game Pass, and so that might be why they said, all right, we've got to do something here because this can't continue. Which, hey, who'd have thought that raising the prices on things would make people less inclined to buy it? I don't know, but so I'm glad that they're doing that. I'm on one hand a bit surprised, on the other hand not too surprised that they're removing Call of Duty from being day one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at least it's only for a year, so I mean it's not too bad. And I mean, I know in the article it said that Game Pass is the reason why, or that it sort of cannibalized some of the game sales, since the game's already going to be on Game Pass. Why buy the game? So I can understand why they're doing that, but I don't think it's going to be hurting everything else too much. I mean, I think you lose Call of Duty, but on the other hand, the service is pretty much cheaper, and it doesn't seem like anything else is impacted too much.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think it's a step in the right direction, more or less. But sort of like what I said before when we talked about this, is how long until they start raising the prices again, and or remove something else, even if they keep the price the same. So we'll have to wait on that. I did also note that Essential and Premium tiers for Game Pass were going to be the same, but it doesn't seem like much of anything is going to happen there anywhere. Like, it doesn't seem like those were impacted anyway, so I guess I can see why those didn't have any changes going on there. But yeah, so I think maybe if there is this one change that's happened with Game Pass, then maybe what other promises that Asha Sharma has made, maybe we might see those happen. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the future, but I definitely was surprised that we did get to see these cuts happen as soon as they did.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this, I'm honestly not overly surprised. Like, I figured that they were probably going to do something, and it was really just more a question of when than if in my mind. But seeing this price drop back closer to what it was before they did the increase, like I think this is a much more reasonable cost. Now, I don't know how many people they got subscribing for Call of Duty, and I'm guessing that's probably a big part of the reason why they're dropping Call of Duty, is just because they realized they weren't getting enough new subscribers for Call of Duty. Of course, from what everyone said, Call of Duty 7, Black Ops 7 especially, was garbage. So it's not really a surprise from that standpoint that didn't give any additional growth. But really, when you look at the actual cost with what they're bringing out, especially in terms of first party games, to me it seems like it would be worth it. Now, it's not something that I'm subscribed to or going to subscribe to, because I have plenty of games without that. I mean, like, I think this is the type of thing that's worthwhile if you don't already have a big game library. But if you already have a big game library, you're already heavily invested in something else, in one ecosystem or another, especially if you're on PC, then there's really not much value to it unless you just want to be able to play try out some of the new titles for cheaper than it would cost to buy it brand new. From that standpoint, I could see it being worthwhile, but for me, like, there are, even the ones that I'm interested in, I'm not so interested in to where I would subscribe. Even though I probably have at least a couple of free trial cards that might still be usable. They give me like a month of Game Pass or whatever. I mean, theoretically, I could do that. Like if I wanted to try it for Fable, for example. That sort of thing. But I'm not... I don't even know that I would necessarily do it for that. Like, I haven't been convinced to use it for so many other things yet. Why would I suddenly turn around? Especially because then I have to use the Windows Store, and it's like, no thanks. I'd rather not. Now, if you gave me those titles to play free on Steam, I'd be like, okay, I'm listening. Hey, I'll give it a try for a month and see what I think. But it's like Windows Store, that's okay. I'm all right. I'll just play the other games in my library. I have a lot. So, yeah. I don't know. I mean, like, I've thought for a long time that I thought that this service is worthwhile if you don't already have a big game library. I mean, it's a great way to try out a lot of different games, to be able to try out these brand new games day one, especially because Xbox is actually dropping a good variety of first party games lately. I mean, I think they've released way more first party games in the past 2 years than PlayStation has. I mean, you think about that, and just a lot of day one Game Pass games in general, like, it's been significantly different from that standpoint, from that offering standpoint. And I'm on the outside looking in because I don't have a PS5 because I didn't buy a PlayStation for the first time this generation, and I don't have an Xbox because I've never had an Xbox. And while there's some of the games that appeal to me, every one of them has come to PC day one, and so the ones that I really wanted to play, like Starfield, I just bought and played on Steam. And I don't think there's been anything else, like the other games that have been interesting to me I bought on discount. Like, what was the one? High on Life was one I was kind of interested in, but I didn't get it until I got it for like $5 or something cheap like that. It was very, very cheap, and that's when I got it. And otherwise I just waited because it was like, sure, I might enjoy that, but I'm not going to spend a bunch of money on it. Like, Redfall's been on my wish list for years, not because I'm like super interested in it, but like, you give it to me for $5 to $10, I'd probably be willing to give it a shot. $20 is a bit too much for a game that I'm like kind of interested in. But yeah. Either way, I think that this will be beneficial to them. I don't necessarily if it's going to drive a bunch of people, new subscribers. I think that it's hard to say if they're really going to get a whole lot of growth. But I'm hoping that, especially for the sake of helping Xbox players more, that Microsoft takes this opportunity to keep the price low for a while and not try doing this again anytime soon, unless they do something significant to make it worthwhile. And even then, not make it like, this is your only option if you want to have day one games, but instead be like, we have this higher tier one that includes additional stuff if you want it, but if not, you can just stick with the current level of Game Pass, or they change the current Ultimate version to some other name, and I don't know, do new Ultimate for the Xbox Game Pass new Ultimate for the new tier or something like that. Some type of Nintendo naming convention. Yeah. Xbox with, Game Pass Ultimate U.
Featuring Dante from Devil May Cry with funky mode.
Yes, I was just thinking that funky mode. Yes. I don't know how we can put that into a title exactly. We'll have to think through that, but that's you do something along those lines for the thumbnail. That'll be perfect. All right. And on that note, any other thoughts before we close out for the night?
No, sir.
All right, let's get into our recommendations and suasions. Start us off.
All right, so a couple recommendations from me. The first one is going to be, make sure to save regularly in Metroidvanias. You might get a tendency to just say, hey, I'll hop into the save room, heal up, and keep moving. Yeah, make sure you save, because you never know if you're going to die, and if you've made a lot of progress and you haven't saved in a while, you're going to be so furious when that happens. So make sure you save and do that frequently. Next thing is going to be if you have a USB 3.0 flash drive that isn't working correctly, like say you're trying to transfer, some files and it keeps crashing, getting an error, try plugging it in a USB 2.0 port if possible. That has been a problem that I've been having with one of my flash drives for some reason, and only after looking up online, someone said try plugging it into a USB 2.0 drive. I did that, and there were no problems with transferring files, so I don't know what the issue is. Also, whenever I did have in the 3.0 drive, in the 3.0 port, the flash drive got really hot, but I didn't have the issue with the 2.0 port, so
Weird.
that seemed to fix the issue there. And then last recommendation, which is actually what I forgot to mention last week, was if you enjoy beat 'em ups, and even if you like, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, I recommend Marvel Cosmic Invasion. It's just more of that same Shredder's Revenge goodness, but just in the Marvel universe, and it's pretty good, fun, solid beat 'em up, and it's got good co-op too, which is also local, split screen, or same screen I should say, and online as well, so definitely recommend that.
Nice. Yeah, I need to go back to Shredder's Revenge, because I've had it a long time on the Switch. I got the collector's edition with the VHS case and everything, but I played a little bit I tried playing that with my wife a little bit, and we didn't get very far. I think that's something the kids might enjoy, though, and since you can do 4 players, it might be worth giving it a go. So maybe one of these days I'll ask them if they want to try that out. There's also that Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 that I haven't tried since pretty much shortly after I got the game, so maybe do that on Switch 2 in boost mode so that it runs better. And although I guess if it's docked, it wouldn't need to be boost mode, but yeah, maybe try that sometime with the kids and see if it does better. Because theoretically, I mean, I would imagine, I'm pretty sure the game probably targets, well, I don't know I hope it targets 60. If it targets 60, then it should be able to maintain 60 on the Switch 2, which would actually make it worth playing there. But if it doesn't target 60 and it's just targeting 30, it's like, okay, well, I guess at least it would be a stable 30. It's better than nothing. But yeah. All right, good stuff. My recommendation, I just have one this week, and that is Pragmata. And it's more than anything, I mean, of course the game is solid, runs really well basically everywhere. And it's, available on a bunch of platforms, but also because of the message it promotes of fatherhood and everything else, even if the girl's not really his daughter because she's a robot. The point is that it's, promoting that positive thing, and I think that could be really beneficial to society as a whole. If we have more kids should be born. I'm looking forward to our 4th one coming this year, and of course I love my 3 existing ones, my 3 born ones. So that is my recommendation.
Very great.
And dissuasions.
All right. Couple dissuasions. First one's going to be, do not buy the AMD Ryzen 9 9950X 3D2. That thing is a ripoff. It already was questionable when AMD put out their own vetted benchmarks comparisons with the original 9950X 3D, and the performance gains were negligible, and those were, and you only got performance gains on productivity, not on gaming. So it was already questionable, but considering the fact that it got the release tag of $900 for very small gains, it's really, really not worth it at all. So you'd be better off just getting the regular X3D, getting it for much cheaper too, than getting this thing, which is overpriced and not worth your time or money. Next thing is going to be, if you're trying out another operating system or distro, don't do it on your main PC unless you're just really hardcore and dedicated to working with it no matter what. If you have like another PC, or if you have just like a spare laptop or something, test it out on there, try it out on there and play around with that. But just don't do it on your main PC, like I said, unless you're just gung-ho about getting into it and not looking back, because you could have issues that might not be easy to resolve. But yeah, that's all I got.
Good. All right. My dissuasion is for Metal Gear Solid 3 / Metal Gear Solid Delta. Do not be greedy when fighting the Fury with your shots, especially if you're going for the non-lethal method. If you're going for the lethal method, it might be okay to be a little bit more greedy, because you can use rocket launchers and machine guns and all sorts of different stuff that could potentially stun him more. But if you're going for the non-lethal method, do not be greedy. Shoot him 3 times, run away. Shoot him 3 times, run away, because otherwise you are going to get destroyed by his flamethrower or his rocket pack, and you will regret life. And you will lose life very fast. So, yeah. Don't be stupid like I was when I first was fighting him. And I would guess I would also just add to that, if you're doing the non-lethal method, it's better to just use the Mark 22 rather than trying to snipe him. Because the sniping, it does a decent amount of damage, but because of the fact that you have to reload after every single shot, and the shots can take a little bit to line up just right. Even though you can usually get 2 shots off, you don't get as much time to run away. And whereas if you're doing the 3 shots with the Mark 22, he almost always falls over, so that it's a lot easier to run away. In fact, I think you pretty much have to get 3 shots on him for him to actually fall to the ground. And then you run away and get to a safe place, and then rinse and repeat until he's dead or knocked out. But yeah.
Oh, I'll make a note of that then.
All right. Where can people find you?
They can find me on my channel. I am Xeracon. That's IAMXERACON. So youtube.com /@IamXeracon. No new content yet. I thought about something, and I'm trying to get something prepared for my next video. So in the meantime, I'm partially considering starting up the sort of series about a series, starting that up, and doing that in the meantime, since that series is going to be a while anyway. So if I have a break here and there, it's no big deal. But I'm gonna at least hopefully start recording my main video starting this weekend, and seeing what happens from there. But we'll see what happens. Then I also have my other YouTube channel, Justin's Bible Blog. That's at Justin's Bible Blog. I finally put out my video for that channel this morning, called My Most Important Video. This one is mainly more so geared toward non-believers, non-Christians than Christians. And so that one I have out for that. And I have another topic video I want to discuss, but I'll figure out when I want to get all that started. But yeah, that's everything that I have.
All right, good stuff. I'll have to look that one up. All right, as far as I go, my YouTube gaming channel is at the Frozen Gamer 87. Nothing new in terms of like regular videos, although I am hoping to start working on that pretty soon. It's kind of hard to say because the next few weeks are going to be a little potentially chaotic, but hopefully I'll find some time to work on those soon. But either way, I just did my 24-hour stream to raise money for my local children's hospital through Extra Life, and the fundraiser still goes all the way through to the end of the year, so you can feel free to donate. There's a link in the description of both this podcast as well as just on the channel in general. You can find it on any previous episode as well, at least for the past like several weeks. But additionally, there's I'll just keep keep including the link throughout the rest of the year. So if you feel like donating, just keep in mind, nothing comes to me. All of it just goes directly to my local children's hospital. That's all it's about. As a father, 3 with a 4th on the way, taking care of kids is near and dear to my heart. It's very important to me, and it's something that I like to raise money for, and so that's why I do a 24-hour stream every year and have for the past 7 years. So there's that. Then there is the YouTube and Rumble channels for the podcast. On YouTube, that is at the Orange Box Podcast. On Rumble, it's not a custom URL, but you can still find us there. We have the video version of the podcast goes live every Friday at 7 a.m. Central Time, barring any technical issues. And the audio-only version goes live on all major audio podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and others. That goes live at 12 a.m. Central Time every Friday. Once again, barring any technical issues or barring me forgetting to schedule the episode. If you want to contact us, you can either send an email to the orangeboxpodcast@gmail.com, or you can comment on the video version of the podcast, and we'll be sure to read it on the show. I believe that's everything. Yes. Last chance. Any final thoughts?
No, sir.
All right, well, I am the Frozen Gamer 87. That is I am Zaracon. We are the Orange Box Podcast, and until next time, keep fighting, and one day you too will have a funky mode added to your life. Orange Box Podcast, out.